quit filmmaking to sell my brain instead. Imagine planning your entire life around being a filmmaker, having 72-hour straight work days, and yes, straight work days without going to sleep, not one bit, staring at your computer, paying your dues, working underpaid jobs, only to realize that you weren't really building a career. You were just exposing yourself to exploitative labor. Welcome to my life. I realized that paying dues was a trap. If you're a creative that's tired of being broke, let me show you how I created systems around my creativity. My first real actualization that I need to rewire the way I even approach filmmaking started when I crashed a bike in Bali 2 days into a 5-week trip. I had nothing else to do than to read books. So one of the books that I read was Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, Awakening Your Life's Purpose. And understanding how my identity was wrapped around my creativity and even my spirituality, which is a story for another day, I needed to rewire how I even approached my career. Fast forward to 2022, I was reading The Psychology of Money and started understanding that a little bit deeper, because the biggest gap that I've noticed was creatives not knowing how to sustain their lives, myself included. And finally, now reading Garrett B. Gunderson, the biggest thing that stood out to me was this idea of scrimp and save, and having a scarcity mindset is so prevalent in the film industry, especially if you're making it out as an independent creative, that you inevitably are creating an unsustainable career for yourself, staying in that scarcity mindset. I participated in mentorship programs to seek help to get more involved in the industry, and that's when I noticed a specific gap within the creative industry as a whole. While these programs mean well, they're still only designed to help the select few. Throughout my transition out of filmmaking, I realized one thing: labor is what's going to keep you at the bottom of the food chain, while systems are going to move you to the top. Let me show you how I broke out of this. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, well, truth of the matter is I grew up with a severe sense of financial insecurity, and as a result of noticing the gap in the film industry and developing a sustainable career for myself while being creative, there was a gap that I needed to address, and that was sustainability. This began my obsession over studying financial literacy and spend thousands of dollars on trading courses. I attended an academy for a few months, and one of the videos that they showed me was Ray Dalio's Changing World Order video, and that blew my mind away. And the reason being is because he says the charts that you see historically in the trading market tells a story of the historical nature of where we are at in our current economic state. Funnily enough, money follows a 250-year life cycle. This wasn't about being an unlucky artist. It was about understanding the economic state in which I am living in to now see how I can use that to my advantage and just be aware of what's going on in the world around me. From there, I saw my money quickly dwindling because all of my experiences in trading, while very beneficial when it comes to making a big bag out of that, it was challenging. I needed to find other ways to keep my cash flow going. I applied to several jobs, and I got a call for an interview thinking that I had an opportunity for a job. And when I got on that call, I was really being recruited to sell life insurance. And they offered to help pay for my certifications and go through the process. I'm like, sure, why not? This is something that I've already explored in the past briefly, and I found a lot of gems within that, especially in building generational wealth, structuring the right types of policies. So I was ready to dive headfirst into it. I realized that the insurance world is really just a big chase for a commission check. However, there are a bunch of lessons. So it is unfortunate that this industry has a bad rap because of the salesmen that are only looking out for themselves. But if you do get firsthand experience into what that looks like, you gain a lot of knowledge from it. The reason why I took it upon myself to even explore this route was because when I initially was setting up my own policies, I had a financial advisor who set me up in a way where she got the biggest commission check and left me to pay a lot of the bills as a result of that. If you're unaware of what those numbers say on those papers, the same thing could be happening to you. And when I reached out to her and told her that I'm interested in learning the nuances of my own policy, she told me, and I quote, "It's cute that you're seeking to learn finances, but this is something that you'll never understand without my help. So it's best that you leave the nuanced details to me. I'm a prideful person, so I told her, you know what? Thank you for your service, but you can cancel everything and I'll start over. And I never spoke to her again. That comment became fuel for me, and that's literally why when I got the call, I saw it as an opportunity, because I finally get to learn the nuances of structuring my own policy and having the power to do the underwriting from it. And now the biggest pattern that I notice, whether you're in the financial industry or in the creative industry, a lot of them rely on your ignorance to keep you dependent on them. Now, I've jumped from agency to agency during my insurance underwriting producer experience, and I was really fortunate enough to be around leaders who really wanted me to understand how to best serve the client. Truth of the matter is, my experience of actually closing a sale didn't really go past my mother, so I of course had to find another way to get my cash flow going, because this still wasn't solving it. Although I did set myself up, if I don't have the funds to put into my policy, then that's just another nightmare that I didn't want to deal with. That led me to getting a job as an operational manager at a creative collective, and not even 6 months in, I get a phone call saying that they're too broke to pay me and they don't need me anymore, so I got let go. And that was my final straw. I went through a series of different experiences in that space, but getting fired to me wasn't a failure, and it was actually a sign of relief. When I got off that call, I was like, I had a feeling, and I'm so glad that this happened in the time that it did. And intuitively, I just knew if God's going to give me a job, it's going to be an intentional one. And this is truly a sign that I need to double down on my purpose so that I can continue to move forward and not be in this position where everyone else has the upper hand over me. This is when I stopped building on other people's broke vision and started building my own frameworks. Once I finally put the Visionary Readiness Handbook together, that made me realize how I can have a checklist of things that I need to do to actually be able to stop film and sell my brain instead. That began with aligning myself with my purpose, understanding the state of mind that I was actually in at the time to see what steps I needed to take in place to ensure that I can continue to build out a system sustainably and not chase every single dollar that comes my way, because not all money is good money. From there, I can now expand on my vision and see where I want to go in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. What do I want this consulting service to look like? And then build a framework around it. Step 2 was defining that enough was enough. A lot of how I even got to this point in my career was because I was always seeking to prove someone wrong. When I came into the film industry, I was told that this is just a hobby. Yes, I may be good at storytelling and producing, but if I'm not getting paid, then it's nothing more than an expensive hobby. That really broke my heart, because I knew of the hungry creative mentality, but hearing that from people that I love was quite challenging. And not to say that that was the only narrative that was instilled in me, because there was a ton of support, but it made me really look in the mirror and see what it's worth if I'm constantly draining myself in an industry that isn't picking me back up. Even in financial services, the reason why I got into that, one, was to prove that I didn't have financial insecurity, was to prove that I can hold myself up, and to prove my financial advisor that I can learn this information without her. And I can actually cut her out of the picture entirely so that I can build my own wealth. I had to learn where to draw the line to see what was enough for me, and how to build my freedom around my vision of enough. Stop moving from a place of scarcity and start moving from a place of abundance. The one thing that the financial industry, and especially with building systems in the insurance realm, taught me that it's far better to build systems than to sacrifice my time. When I finally came to terms with where I was at in my life, what I needed to do, and what I'm willing to sacrifice on the altar of tomorrow, this is when I finally met Daphne, my amazing, incredible partner of the Mind Economy series. And when we first crossed paths together, It was at a time when I had just finished the Visionary Readiness Handbook. I was transitioning my company, AYKO Visions, from being in film production through my company, Productize. I had closed that out to now create AYKO Visions. And I was seeking help on building a business plan because I didn't want to figure things out on the fly anymore. I already had that experience in my last company, turned into a one-man band, and I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to learn how to scale. And Daphne, having a background in mortgage finance with over 30 years in the underwriting world and understanding how to grow a business to scale through her mindful business coaching and just having tons of experience in business, I sought out her help. And when we went into each other's backstories, I realized we were very similar in different ways, but we were both storytellers, we were both creatives, and she just had far more experience in the business realm than I did, but she had purpose. And when we came together, we saw each other and we were like, we might be able to help one another through this. That's how we were able to develop the Mind Economy series. And we looked each other in the eye and said, even though it's going to take work to build this out, it's going to be so worth it. And we're going to find all the ways to build a sustainable career out of what we're building through this company. We built a strategic plan, we built out our business plan, and as a result, we've been able to create a creative asset rather than just treating it like another hobby. This changed my life forever because meeting Daphne led to birthing the Mind Economy series, to then having this grand idea of let's write a book, which ended up being Unlocking Business Consciousness, integrating mindfulness into strategic business practices as a result of what I've seen and what she's seen on how to not burn yourself out and actually build a sustainable career around the purpose that you're building. It hasn't been an easy journey growing a business to scale, but what I did learn is that the more you set yourself up through systems in the beginning, rather than chasing every dollar that comes your way, you're far better off in having the longevity that you actually seek in your career, as opposed to letting everyone else determine your fate. If you learned anything from my experience, I hope it's this. You don't have to choose between being a broke creative and a soulless corporate sellout. You can build a sustainable business by selling your brain, your mind, and not your time. If you're ready to break out of the narratives that you've been told, we actually speak about that in the first chapter of our book, Unlocking Business Consciousness. If you're ready to take the steps to see how you can turn your vision and your purpose into a reality, that's where the Visionary Readiness Handbook comes into play. Through the Mind Economy series, we also offer 30-minute consultations in which you can go and visit themindeconomyseries.com to schedule your appointment now to see how you can take the next steps forward. I hope this inspires you to take a moment and reflect on how you've been treated, who's been dictating your future, and how you can take that control back for yourself. If you would love to see next steps on how to become a CEO in your life, I actually created a video on how to create a dashboard inside of ClickUp to create your CEO lifestyle. Remember, don't sell your time and get ready to sell your system. I'll see you in the next video.